Your price elasticity is where you can generate more revenue. What that means is you have the ability to charge more. So many attorneys I meet, they're simply not charging enough. My name is Richard James, and today we're tackling this question: how do we grow the revenue of a law firm? As the owner of a law firm, you better be careful, because there are marketing agencies out there convincing you there's one way to grow your firm, when the reality is there are 4 ways to grow the revenue of your firm. And today, you'll understand what those 4 ways are and their subsets, and where you should look first inside of your firm in order to start to grow revenue. So let's unpack the 4 pipelines, shall we? The first is the new client attraction pipeline. This is where we generate new clients for your firm. And most importantly, it's the area that everybody tells you is the only place you can go to grow your firm. It's just not true. The second place is workflow. Do you know that there are millions and millions of dollars tied up in your law firm in workflow alone? Just the other day, I was working with a client. We went through an exercise and we were able to identify $1.3 million in revenue that was hiding in his workflow that he didn't even realize was there. The next area is this idea of profitability. Profitability has a few key tenets to it, and it's not just about bottom line profits, net incomes. It also has to do with top side revenue, and we're going to unpack that. And then we're going to look at talent. And you say, well, how can revenue hide in talent? We're going to look at that too. By the way, if you'd like some help with this, you can visit us at thelawfirmsecret.com. We've got some great resources there that are free. And if you need our help and you want us to walk alongside you, we can do that too. So let's take a deeper dive, shall we? So inside of the new client attraction pipeline, obvious answers that you hear all the time from marketing agency is that we can increase leads. So do you have great leads, but you don't have great conversions? Or do you have solid conversions and what you could do is really use more leads? It just really depends. You got to do the due diligence necessary. And if you do, you should be able to drive revenue fairly straightforward. Your responsibility as the owner is to go through the PCLC, your perfect client lifecycle, and you should actually determine what your sales conversion numbers look like. Hey, if you want a free resource, visit us at the yourpclc.com, yourpclc.com. We'll put the link in the show notes, and you can go ahead and try that calculator for free. There's no commitment, and you can see what your conversion is like. And then if you need help understanding how to interpret it, we're happy to walk alongside of you. And so that's the real path for you to understand: how well am I converting? Now, the second place we need to do is we need to look at workflow. Once the prospect says they want to become a client, they pay you money, and then they sign the client service agreement, unless you're in a contingency-based firm, then you have to get the work done. And based on your practice area and billing mechanisms will determine how we drive revenue. My experience with contingency-based firms is that the fastest path for you to drive more revenue is to work your cases more efficiently. If you work your cases more efficiently, you'll drive more revenue. And that's why revenue is tied up in your workflow, because you don't know how it works. Now, you know what the number one problem with hourly billing firms are? Most of the associates for the firm aren't billing enough hours. If you are an hourly billing attorney, they should be billing 120 at a minimum, and 150 is a nice number to hit, right? Not all attorneys will hit the 150, but if we can figure out how to remove all the tasks that the billable hour attorney does and only have them bill time, we can get closer and closer to that 150 number. If you pay attention to how many hours your attorneys are actually billing or you're actually billing, you'll be able to bill more hours. Also, sometimes in firms that bill hours, everybody's so busy doing non-related things, they oftentimes miss hours they should be billing on a case, and they forget to enter the time, or they don't work the case as thoroughly as they should. And so consequently, they're leaving money on the table and possibly service for the clients on the table as well. And you should be putting more hours into a case. Again, this is a case-by-case basis. Now, what about less hours? Now, this is not necessarily generating more revenue. It's saving your way to solvency. So if you're a flat fee firm, maybe you're working too many hours on a case that has to go out the door. And so more times than not, what I find is in flat fee firms, your firms are inefficient and you're not as profitable on a case as you should be because you don't have systems to manage the workflow. And so you have to pay attention to the systems that run your workflow, things like BAM FAM and understanding the stages and conversion between stages and how much capacity you have in each stage. Which brings me to my next point. The way you can grow revenue in all payment types, but really flat fee is where this is hidden the most, is unearthing value. Because once you start to understand what the stages of your cases are, and you start to see how many clients you have in each stage, and you start to pay attention on how to prioritize the work, and you raise up the most profitable dollar earning cases, like we call it the lowest hanging fruit, and you raise those cases up to the workflow first, what happens is, though we might not be as efficient as we should be, we start working the cases that produce dollars. Now, if they produce dollars, it also means that they're producing results for the clients because you're getting the case worked faster. And so you want to prioritize case workflow so that we can unearth that money. Let's move on to the third pathway. This third pathway is called profitability. Now, I told you that there was more than just driving profit in this section. It actually has something to do with driving revenue. And what is it that has to do with driving revenue? That's price elasticity. Your price elasticity is where you can generate more revenue. What that means is you have the ability to charge more. So many attorneys I meet, the very first thing I have them do is charge more money for the work that they're doing. They're simply not charging enough. They're charging $245 an hour rather than $295 an hour. They're charging $345 an hour rather than $395 an hour. Or they've been an attorney for 25 years and they're charging $395 an hour. I'm like, why? Why aren't you charging $595 an hour? You're worth every nickel of it. You've been doing this forever. And so they don't think of themselves in their value. It depends on case type. It depends on what value you're bringing. But most firms are simply undercharging for the cases that they do work in. The other hidden secret issue in revenue is that they get stuck so much in collections, which brings me to my next point. Especially if they're an hourly fee, they raise their minimum amount down on the retainer, like they charge $7,000 or $9,000 down on a retainer when they bill out at $400 an hour, and you're only going to have 20 to 30 hours in on a case because they got burned so often in accounts receivable, and their path through that was raise the retainer amount. The problem is now you have clients who won't retain you because your retainer amount is too high, and they got quoted by the guy down the street at $3,000, and they don't know that they're still going to pay the same they paid to you, but they heard $3,000 rather than $9,000, and so they go to the $3,000 guy because they don't understand what a retainer actually means. And so by charging these high retainers, it's hurting your conversion rate. By hurting your conversion rate, it's hurting your gross revenues. Secondarily, the way that you get more revenue is just make sure you collect the money you're supposed to be collecting. So many firms that I meet with in this accounts receivable department are collecting less than 75% of every dollar. So 75 cents on every dollar. That's $750,000 on every million, right? So just think about that math. It's huge. It makes such a huge difference as you get up to the $1 million firm, $2 million. When you get to a $5 million firm, it matters so much. There's literally $1 million laying on the floor that you're not realizing because your collection rate is off. Based on firm to firm, your collection rate should be somewhere between 87 and 95%, depending on practice area. And if it's not, you got a real problem. And if you have that problem, you're never going to fix it until you fix your AR collection system. Now, let's talk about spend. This is the old save your way to solvency methodology. My mentor told me a long time ago, you sell your way to success and you save your way to solvency. These terms right here, these are selling your way to success, even unearthing and more hours and less hours and doing it faster. You save your way to solvency by ensuring that you watch what you're spending, both personally and in the business. Having good quality controls over what's being spent, reviewing that spend on a regular basis so you make sure that what you think is happening is actually happening. Now, let's go to the fourth pipeline. The fourth pipeline is the talent pipeline. What we want to pay attention to are three fundamental things. All your talent should either make the company money or save the company money. If you can't draw a clear conclusion as to how your team members make the company money or save the company money, then you've got a real problem because you're leaving money on the table somewhere because you can't draw what they do directly to revenue or savings. Some of you need more billable staff. You're afraid to hire, but you've got all this demand pent up. You've got all these clients that want your service. You're booking out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, and you're booking out 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. They're waiting to meet with you. And then once they get the case in the door, now they got to wait to get their case processed because you won't bring anybody in because you're afraid of the overhead. I get it. But if the people you bring in make the company money, hourly billing staff make the company money. If you can get your cases closed faster, you'll unearth more dollars. And if you do it right, you'll be able to use less billable hours per case if you build systems. You probably need to bring in more hourly billing team members. That's how you generate revenue. That's your widget machine. And if you are a manufacturing plant, you have to produce that inventory. And the way you produce that inventory is by working hours. If you've got a pile of hours that need to be worked, go get somebody to work them. That's how you start to generate more revenue. If you're a flat fee firm and you're backed up and you can't work the cases and you have to work them faster, you have to unearth things, you have to get some people who can work those cases. You may not have enough man hours currently available to do it. What I find more often than not inside the talent pipeline is that law firms, they really struggle to hire good quality people. And many law firms fall below the line. The owner of the law firm falls below the line into the victim, the villain, or the hero role. These people suck. Millennials are the worst employees in the world. I can't trust anybody. Every time I go to hire somebody, they quit before I even get them started. I'm better off just doing it myself. Villain, victim, and hero. The way we need to come about this is today is the day I'm going to build a system that's going to recruit good quality team members. I've made another video about this at another time. You want to definitely go ahead and watch that. By the way, if you'd like some help with this, you can visit us at thelawfirmsecret.com. We've got some great resources there that are free. And if you need our help and you want us to walk alongside you, we can do that too. Look, if you want to build a better law firm that grows revenue, don't just focus on generating more leads. Pay attention to the 4 paths you have: new client attraction, workflow, profitability, and talent. I promise you, if you do, you're going to grow your firm without investing more money in advertising. Follow these 4 paths, figure out where you need to start, and go about building a better system and a better law firm one path at a time.